everyone, it's Cindy. Welcome back to Studioloo. I'm here today with the second of 2 volumes of the Artist Sampler book, my latest 2 journals that I've created. This journal is spoken for, but if that should change, it will go into my Etsy shop, so you can get notified on Etsy. So let's talk about it. So if you saw the flip through of the first one, you would already know some of this, so I apologize for any repetition. These books came about as a result sort of when I was working on my digital collection of the Vintage Ledger watercolor samples. I started to think about, all the supplies in my studio and how I could make a lot of fun samples. Samples have always inspired me. Like, I love getting wallpaper sample books or like those textile sample books, and I just felt like they're like little collections, really, right? So this one, it is similar to the other one in that it has some things are similar, but a lot is different, actually. So if you've watched the other, flip through and you think this will be the same, it actually won't really be. It's considerably different. So this book, it's big. It has 10 signatures. It has a 3.5 inch wide spine. So let's start just talking about the cover. So on the cover, I first used some beautiful locally made marbled paper. So that's what's at the very back here. I've done some gilding around, and I've added this fun metal journal label that's been painted inside, so you could write something inside there. Behind here you'll see that there are watercolor ledger swatches. They've been clear embossed, so has this one. I've stitched on these silk flowers. This is a piece of driftwood that I've wrapped my hand-dyed bamboo yarn around, and it's been braided right into the cover. There are also some vintage stamps that have been treated with glossy accents, so they have that fun, shiny, rubbery feel to them. And this little sample, believe it or not, is probably from like the 1950s or 70s, I don't know, and goodness knows where it came from, because I got it on the shoreline. It's a piece of linoleum, and I got it on the shoreline when I was in Newfoundland. And the fun thing about when you're walking the beach there, it's like sad and wonderful at the same time, is that garbage from the ocean, it all washes up on the shore. So like you'll find things from Japan from like the 1960s, like some of the places that I ventured with my husband when we were going on a reckless adventure one day. We would climb down sort of cliff sides and go to the side of the ocean and just look at the things we were finding. I found a whale bone that I couldn't quite reach it without having to live at the bottom of that cliff for the rest of my life. I wouldn't have been able to get back up, but oh, did I ever want to go down there. But anyways, I'm rambling. So let's get into this book. The spine dangle, I also wanted to make that a bit of an artist sample. So it's got a bunch of fun things. These are pencils with their erasers intact. Years ago I spun some really fun schoolhouse kind of themed yarns, and one of them was a gray yarn that had these spun right into it. We have a little worry doll here. We have some vintage buttons. We have a little crocheted flower. This is a Japanese collar closure. A little shell here, a little Barbie hand. This is one of my ceramic buttons. If you've ever bought a journal or yarn from me, you always get these buttons in the package. Some of my wooden buttons. This is a piece of coral. More of my little ceramic buttons that I make. These are little beads that I make with measuring tape. We have this fun rusty key, and this is a little foam bird egg. A little crystal, and more beads, shashi mirrors, all sorts of things. So again, it's a sample, right? And if you watched my paper studio tour that I made a while back, you would see that I have this big 90 drawer library cabinet. Those things come out of there. Then on the spine here, I have put some rust dyed paper, fabric, cotton, that's mordanted, and I've printed with these cogs. Then the closure is via metal eyelet, and I've got 2 a vintage brown, chestnut brown seam binding, and or bias tape. Sorry, not seam binding this time, bias tape. And then this fun pink lace. Okay, so the end papers of this book, believe it or not, are actually from the original book. They were the fly papers, and the end papers behind are the same, but I couldn't retain them because I personally like to embed the fabric under the paper when I do my closures. I just think it's neater. Then this is a little sample of a sampler quilt. This was not made by me, although I know how to do English paper piecing. This was made by the Mennonites of the region of Wellesley. So this paper is very nice and crepey. It's like a vintage wallpaper. And then also in these books, you will see I've used Stamperia's L'Atelier des Arts kit, and I really love it. I just wanted to include this as is because it's such a nice little studio kind of peek at a bunch of samples of supplies. The other things that I've used in here are some art supply themed digital kits and some quotes and snippets of things from a book called An Illustrated Life. And yeah, you'll see them throughout. So the first quote is, "If you make a drawing, you remember much more than if you take a photo." So a little collage pocket here, and inside of it, we have a couple of things. And I feel like one of these wasn't supposed to go in here, so I might have to put it somewhere else. We'll see. Anyways, this is from an Italian children's book on how to learn to draw. And I made, I painted on the back with, this is actually ink, like drawing ink. And from Ferris Wheel Press is where that ink is from. This is a collage card that has metallic Posca pen samples at the back. Then this is a lovely vintage hanky, and I did stitch sampling from my sewing machine on it. And then over here I upturned it to make pockets. And then we have, throughout this book, you're going to see a few of these, and these are from a big book on William Morris, and these are his like samples, like in progress works of art, where, you know, he was designing and coloring and writing notes on like his botanical samples for like things that he would make, like wallpapers and such. So all of the William Morris work in progress you will see throughout the book. This little collage pocket that has cork all down here. Illustrated journaling has transformed my life and given me the clearest form of identity I've ever had. This is a sampling of oxides on some old poetry paper. This is a sampling of my snippet roll belly bands, and inside I've added these. These are some watercolor samples from Release the Crafton's digital kit. Then we have that beautiful Stamperia paper, all those samples. These are coffee dyed pages. Another sample page of my belly bands from Snippet Rolls. And this is a journal card made with a sampling of art dolls. These are ones that I've designed. These are ones from Miles Beyond the Moon. One of my favorite paper doll, art doll designers. And then there's a sampling of different laces. This is a beautiful handmade crochet lace. The other side of that hanky with this pocket. And this is on one of my watercolor ledger sample cards. It says, "It's revealing how much I learn about possibilities, which in turn strengthens my resolve to keep moving forward more intriguing directions." More of those stitch samples and some lined paper. This belly band here has this large journal card in it. Now, I took this from, I have these large books on how to draw trees, and they have some of these really nice illustrations of the materials that you'll need to take part in the drawing in the book. And so it says, "Here is a subject I would not have dared to suggest in my first book on how to draw trees. But I think that nothing attempted, nothing done. You don't have to go far afield to find interesting examples of nature's handiwork. I found this old weeping mulberry in my backyard. It gave me quite a challenge. You try it. It was pretty cold, and I made this drawing but I don't know any other way to do it than to go out and make sketches from nature. Look at the foundation of the branches and the rough knotted bark and long delicate twigs. I just liked that snippet of writing and what it tells us about like enduring things like the weather to accomplish, you know, our artistic endeavors. It also made me think of Edith Holden. This pocket here is collaged with some Vicky Bouton paper and this little white tube of paint. Drawing is a mystical activity that makes places holy when and where it is practiced. I should mention that this book, I think I said it was spoken for, if your initial of your first name is J, this book is intended for you. I forgot to mention that. And this is super special, but I had to include it because this book is intended for a special person. So this is some happy mail from my friend Shell at Shell's Creative Chaos. It is the result of some acrylic pour over painting on canvas, which has just got my heart. Like, I know I really want to do this, but like I don't want to buy all the supplies and get into another thing, but I am so tempted, beyond tempted. It's so cool. This is a coffee dyed page of my own hand painted washi tapes that are stamped and painted, and some beautiful hand crocheted lace. This little pocket is made from Vicky Bouton paper. This is one of the little art note cards from the Stamperia paper. It says, "Art is not just a painting." And I love this Franken paper. I made it with jelly prints. This is coffee dyed paper, and this is the center page from the Stamperia kit. It says, it is in spring when the rebirth of life begins. A little lace belly band that's been coffee dyed, and it's on some Franken paper made from the jelly prints. And this, believe it or not, is a sample card of my bingo daubers. So it's just like a little bookmark kind of, and it's on top of some old book page of poetry. And I love that I can see to the moon say clearly, and my bonny dearie, fairies dance say cheery. It's a lovely poem back there. I just realized that. But yeah, I have some bingo daubers in my studio that I use for, you know, mark making, and they're a lot of fun. Coffee dyed paper, more of the washi tape sample. This journal card, it's a double journal card with watercolor paper on back. And on the outside, it's fabric samples of these 3 fun, lovely fabrics. And that goes right on up here. And then this belly band here on these color wheels with some lace down the side. This is a journal card that is a sample card of some of my stickers. Another fun thing in a paper studio. This is a sample page on coffee dyed paper of all of my snippets of different papers in my scrap bin, which I think is like foundational. What more tells you about an artist than the snippets of paper that they have in their studio, right? So this little envelope tips up, and then inside we have some fun little Release the Craftin snippets of her watercolor samples. So there are actually 4 of those in there. Coffee dyed paper. This is my hand dyed paper, and this is a sample page of my floral rub-ons. So some go directly on the paper and some are on cotton. This little collage pocket here, it says, "If there is feeling, there is art." And this is a sampling of my paper cranes. I once made hundreds of paper cranes for an installation, and I currently still have them, a few of them left, and they're in a big bag. So this is a lovely page from Stamperia. More of my hand-dyed paper with the floral rub-ons. This little clipped-on bit here, a stationery, writing space on back. This is from the anatomy coloring book. and it's the nervous system, anatomy of a synapse. So synapses are pretty cool, and you can read about them on your own, but I wanted to include this. I thought it was a really fun thing because, you know, learning about anatomy is like a big part of becoming an artist, and whether you're learning to draw form or you're learning to draw for scientific purposes, it's just kind of a cool thing. And on this side we have more of these snippets from my scrap bin, a little sample page. Some more of that lovely rainbow lined paper. Here I made a pocket out of the William Morris sample, and inside it is this tag of samples of clusters. So we've got different paper, little miniature paper clusters, and the background is done with oxide and coffee. This page we have some purple lace and this little pocket and a few little things on this pretty paper. This is a little sampling of, it's the cardstock at the front of a scrapbook bundle. You know how they show you all the papers that are included, so it's a sample. And then we have a watercolor sample from Release the Crafted and this little journal card from Stemperia. And these pages I made, these are sample pages of beautiful fabrics. And on back, I think they're so fun with the crisscross of stitches. This is a little pocket that says The Working Artist. It's from a vintage book. This is from a vintage book on how to draw trees, and it's drawn all in blue, and it's some fun materials. This says Sketch Your Life and put color on it. This is a sample page of the stamps in my collection, and I thought I would leave it alone. If you wanted to, you could actually watercolor paint them in or do what you'd like, as they are all made with archival ink. Hand-dyed paper and some fun Stamperia paper here. Art has a lot to show. More of those stamps. This little pocket is made from illustrations from a vintage book, and it's of all these different supplies, and it's again on that fun backed paper, the backing side of the stitched paper. This is a tag that I made with my Ferris wheel press inks. They're quite bougie, like calligraphy inks, and they're very iridescent and sparkly and lovely. So these five are from Ferris Wheel Press. These little are Winsor Newton, but they're all beautiful. This sample page is again of the Stitched On Fabrics. Up here we have a collaged tuck spot. It's not a casual happenstance. You are filling up a book over time rather than an isolated, unconnected piece. So that's a quote about journals. This beautiful paper behind. This is a sample journal card that I made on jelly print paper with Sharpies. This is a stitched bit of fabric on a pocket that says Colors So Brilliant. This is a journal card that I made from the Stamperia paper. And there's some color wheels back there, and while I'm here, I'm just going to get this little thread that I missed snipping. There we go. This is a sample page of die cuts. So these are all die cuts from my collection of dies. So let me just pull it all out here. So there's this pretty little wreath shape back here, this round with this on the front. This one has a little circle here and a lock and this little tuck spot. These are all die cuts. That's a journal card that goes in here. And these are also little die cut labels, and they go in here, and they're for journaling on as well if you'd like. You can do what you'd like with those. More of my dyed paper. I wanted to put like a selection of my different dyed papers through the book, so I did. This is a sampling of all of my different inks, just stamped down. And I hand painted the back side of the paper so the ink wouldn't bleed through. This is a little pocket here made from a sketchbook image from the Illustrated Life book. And then these are just a couple little bits. This is again a little sample from a scrapbook paper book. And then this is from Stamperia. That beautiful page. Some more lace. More of those inks and dyed paper. Another of the die cut pages. So here we have this pocket. The die cuts are the bee, the leaf, the lock, the maple keys and leaves. And then this down here, these are both die cuts. These are die cuts. This whole thing is die cuts actually. And another little tag up there with a die cut. Bullet paper. Then this pocket is made from, so these are the textile samples from William Morris. He would include his sample and then write notes about it. And then in here, this is a sample of my my alcohol inks that I just played with on this glossy photo paper, and then I added plastic over top just to make it like interesting. Different textures and feels to things. This is actually packaging, which to me is like, this is a sampling of my materials, and it's fancy packaging because it's from my Ferris wheel press box for my ink, which I've been hoarding these boxes. Look at these boxes. Aren't they just incredible? This one's not even as cool as what this one is, but yeah, they're all very cool. Here's another one. They're just so beautiful. Anyways, I digress. So this is actually a tree. It's an illustration from that vintage How to Draw Trees book. And then this big sample card. This is a sample from my, so I tell you guys all the time I keep this big fabric bowl. It is a fabric bowl that I made. And these are all of the bits and bobs, like book spine and what have you. This is like my sample of things that I grabbed from, that I keep on my desk all the time, and it keeps getting added to and becomes overwhelming. So, yeah, it lives back there. And so all of these things were inside of it, and I made this card from it. So, yep, another studio sample. This little pocket here, made from an Italian children's book on how to learn to draw. This is from the How to Draw Trees book. This is a tag that I made. This is a sampling of stickers and die cuts from my ephemera book that sits back here too. I can't pull that out because it will be a disaster, but yeah, all different fun things. This little pocket here with these cute little paint tube. That beautiful paper, and then we have some color wheels and paint samples. Lace. This is tea-dyed paper. This is a sampling of my handmade page tabs. This is all Stamperia, and I added a couple fun little, a tag and a Release the Craft in Watercolor sample card. And that center beautiful page. More of my tea-dyed paper with my handmade tabs. And then this is a wraparound, like a double kind of journal card or card. So the back side is book page, it's been hand painted, and the front has a bunch of my paint samples. I hope you're drinking tea and not wine, and you know, taking a sip every time I say sample, because yeah. Okay, a little pocket there from the Italian Children's How to Draw book, and then the How to Draw Trees. This is like, I was thinking about like a sampling of this cool punch that I have, that I thrifted, and these are from a sketchbook actually, so kind of a fun little card. This is a little fold-out pocket from a sketchbook, and there's writing space here. And then inside, this and this are from the same book, the How to Draw Trees. So not only does it have just beautiful nature drawings, it also has these materials drawings and like instructions on your materials. We all have an artist within us, and this collage tag. This large stamp is a waffle flower stamp. It's specifically designed for, you know, swatching and sampling. Here I've chosen to use my Prismacolor pencil crayons, and then this big green lace. This pocket here, you'll see more swatching. That's acrylic paint. And then that journal card is in there. This is from 1973. It is a sample warp pattern. I think I talk about this in the other video, but many years ago I acquired the personal effects of a woman who is a weaver. She was like one of the founding members of the Toronto Weavers Guild, and yeah, these are her charts and her little yarn samples. I purchased her loom. So this is a belly band, and this is a sample card, handmade paper, and this is a sample of vintage photos, another material in my studio. And there are some super cutie kids on here, and some horses and botanicals and these kind of farmers. This is a sample of my Minte, one of my favorite fussy cut papers. So this is a sample page of it. I've included it as a pocket here that has a William Morris sample inside. This one has birds. So again, you can see the illustration and his note. And then when he begins to fill in the colors, I'm just astounded by that work. I mean, it's beautiful to look at it finished, but to see it in progress, it does something else. I don't know. It makes you fathom it more. This collage pocket, don't breathe air, breathe life. And this is this really fun. This was from the Illustrated Life book, from a sketchbook, and it's from February 28th, 2006. I am learning how to sew again, and I stitched around it, and she has her sample here. Threading my needles and dreaming up projects again. I am inspired and anxious and humbled by the process of learning something from the very beginning. A little illustration of a needle and thread, super cute. And then this little corner pocket here, this color wheel. And then this is, again, that same 70s weaver, 5 plain weave samples, her paper said, but these were a bunch of her yarns that she had done weavings with, that she just kept the threads. So I laminated it on the original graph paper. This is just some fun inky paper that I used as a backing for the journal card. And this is the weaving record sheet, also from her collection. This is a little sample page of metallic Posca markers, and I used it as a pocket. So sometimes the samples, as you see, are on the page, other times they're on the ephemera or on the pockets. This is a page from the Stamperia paper. And then this is a sample page of vintage stamps, very beautiful birds and fruit. And these ones, very colorful. This is a little palette that I drew and cut out. So I just cut the whole thing out. I used acrylic paints to fill them in and just kind of made it a little sketchy and fun. I wanted to put that in the center of the signature. More of the stamp samples. And more of the stamp samples. Just this beautiful page with these painty tubes. I should cut some of these threads, they're quite long. There we go. That's the other side of that weaving sample paper. This pocket here with another color wheel and this beautiful William Morris in progress journal card. Collage pocket. My sketchbooks are junk drawers, filled with odds and ends, AA batteries, twisty ties, and bad poetry. That's the little stamped out hole from the cover. Then this is a collage tag with my watercolors and other bits and bobs. This is a color wheel illustration that I found in like an old book randomly when I was making this. You know how sometimes the universe is just like, here's a little gift. Well, this little thing was just in a random book that I got. So I added this to it, this little color wheel. It turns, it's braided. This turns as well, almost like a little clock. And it has one of Release the Crafton's yellow swatch watercolor cards. This is on paper from that same 1970s weaver. Let me just open that pocket a little bit. Pardon my arm. Just want to make sure it's fully open. It is. Okay, good. And pop that back in there. There we go. And then her yarns are all up here, and they're so pretty. This is a sample page of quotes that I enjoyed. I chose them with the person who is intended for this book kind of in mind. Yeah, it's nice. I made a journal card out of one, and then a pocket, and then added some quotes here. If you ever wonder what the world is coming to, remember, so did your grandfather. A sense of humor is a shock absorber on the road of life. This is just some vintage ledger. This is cabbage-dyed music tablature with some coffee-dyed lace. Stamperia paper, that beautiful studio page from Atelier des Arts. I got really good color from the cabbage on this page. I love it. More of that vintage ledger. More of the quotes. Believe the best rather than the worst. People have a way of living up or down to your opinion of them. Failures are more commonly caused by having made no choice than by wrong decisions. L. Carte. More of those yarn samples. This little collage pocket. I wish I could draw more. It keeps me alive and focused and makes the experience of the place where I am more intense. And this is a journal card that I made from Stamperia paper. This little tuck spot here of this paint. This is a little journal card that I made. I don't really care if the drawings are logical or done well, which is helpful since they're neither. And this is glued on, and then I hand drew these leaves. A little pocket on a blueprint page. And this says, make art and you will have wings to fly. This is some handmade paper, and I wanted to give a sampling of my hand spun yarns. So these are metal eyelets, and I have tied them through and made a tuck spot on this side. This says, I draw in my journal every single day. If it wasn't daily, it would lose much of its power. This is from a sample book of embroidery designs. Again, more of my hand spun yarns, the eyelets on the handmade paper. I love blank pages. They scream possibilities to me. They clamor for attention. More of this blueprint paper and a pocket here. Share inspiration and you will be an artist. I love the way I see the world differently since I started drawing. I like seeing how everything relates to everything else. And I love all the pictures of the journals here. And then we end again with one of those little samples from the scrapbook paper pads. Back here I've just added my Studioloo seal and my signature, and it says art is everywhere. So I hope you enjoyed the flip through of this book. I really enjoyed making these. They were extremely time consuming because, you know, you're taking out different materials all the time and you're making all these little projects, and you're also, you know, curating related kind of materials. But yeah, I think it was 100% worth it, and I really love how these are. I think they're a good expression of myself as an artist, but just also in general of the kind of art that we love in this community. So thank you again for hanging out with me. Again, this book is intended for someone, but if anything should change, it will show up in my Etsy shop. So until then, have a lovely day. Bye for now.